We are fully into basketball season. Tennessee basketball, for now, as of us recording this, number one in the country. It probably won't. This is Sunday night. Probably won't last until in the morning. But, anyways, for now, we're covering the number one team in the country, Harbin. I'm Negative Niece. That's Harbin, of course. And this is the Section YY podcast. Tennessee played two basketball games this week. They went 1-1, like you and I both kind of suspected, Harbin. So we'll get into that here shortly. But it's been a cold, snowy weekend here in East Tennessee, Straw Plains, Mascot, Granger County, all those areas. Wasn't as bad as it may have been predicted to be or what people were running around with. I had a guy call me very quickly here, Harbin. I had a guy call me. It was kind of, I think it was like Wednesday. And at that time, most of the snow reports were 1 to 3 inches, maybe 2 to 4. But he kept saying, "Oh, it's 5 to 7 inches, and if we get this boomerang effect, it's going to be double that." I said, 14 inches. They're calling for 1 to 3. He's like, "No, no, no. We might get 17 or 14." Like, geez, okay. Well, we ended up here at my house. I think it was like 2.5 or something like that. So nothing too bad, but it's been a cold, snowy weekend here in Strawberry Plains. Good weekend to watch basketball. A lot of good basketball, and especially last night. And we'll get into that was on Saturday night. So we'll get into that. But NFL football's been on today and last night. College basketball, so a lot to get to. Did you make any snow cream, Harbin, a snowman, anything like that?
Uh, no. I did join a little bit of a sledding crew over at the Stanton compound. Um,
Nice.
I didn't sled. I was a supervisor,
Oh,
but that was about the extent of what I did.
I
I
saw
just
there was. I saw there was some snowboarding going on over there a little bit.
there was,
Yeah.
and I got out both days. Um, just cabin fever type deal. Just got the tundra out. Knew I was going to be able to get anywhere I wanted to.
Hey, shout out to one of our listeners, Brandon. Brandon, you know who you are. He was out in his two-wheel drive Toyota Saturday morning, just letting I think it was a Cadillac SUV in front of him. Obviously, it was four-wheel drive, and they were just poking up and down the road, just creeping, and he was not happy. So that was great entertainment Saturday morning when I woke up and saw that the two-wheel drive sleigh by Clark Griswold. Before we get into Tennessee basketball, just a couple news and notes I pulled up as far as Tennessee football recruiting goes. Five-star quarterback Faison Brandon, I believe is how you say his name, was named he's a quarterback in 2026 class, number one player in the country. He was named Alpha Dog of the Navy National Combine on Saturday. And this says, after delivering an impressive performance during drills in San Antonio last week, the Tennessee commit showed his live arm during drills and was impressive with accuracy to all three levels of the field. As noted by 247 Sports' Andrew Ivins, Brandon also displayed excellent touch during one-on-one drills by consistently throwing his targets open. Um, this kid's best player in the class in next year's class. So he won't be here until the 2026 season. But I was talking to somebody earlier in the week. I can't remember who it was, but they said they're not sold on Nico, and they're just kind of down on Nico. And I was like, remember, Nico was a freshman this year, first time, first go around doing everything. But you know what? If Nico doesn't work out, we got some dogs behind him. In McIntyre, there's Merklinger behind him, and then this kid's coming in a couple years. So it's not like there's not going to be competition for this job. It's Nico's for now, but if he doesn't perform up to expectations or where Tennessee wants him to, they got options to look at. It's not like they've got Gaston Mortis sitting back there from here on out. There's options back there. So that's just something to keep in mind as we move forward. And also, this 2026 recruiting class, Harbin got a nice pickup, offensive lineman. And I apologize to this young man if I screw his name up. Gabriel Osenda. He committed during the Navy All-American Bowl, which is where um, Faison Brandon was. He's an offensive tackler out of Chattanooga from the Baylor School. He picked Tennessee over Florida, Georgia, South Carolina, and Minnesota. Minnesota was weird, but he's 6'7", 333-star prospect on 247. I think he's a 4-star prospect on some other agencies, but he's according to 247, he's the number 32 offensive tackle in the 2026 class. Right now, I think Tennessee's 2026 class is top five. I will say, and I heard this on VolQuest and I've read it other places, don't get tied up too much in recruiting rankings, especially for high school. I mean, you look back at Tennessee's class from 2023, I think it was number 12. And it would kind of, I think maybe we talked about this last week, but it would blow your mind how many kids are not playing here anymore that were in that class. So, yes, we're top five. That's awesome. That's where we need to be. But I wouldn't get all tore up about recruiting rankings for high school right now because you don't know after 1 or 2 years what that class is even going to look like here. But right now they've got a lot of positive momentum, Harb, and things are looking good on the recruiting trail at least.
Yeah. Where's Faison from again?
He is over in North Carolina. It looks like he's Grimsley High School. I'm not sure what part of North Carolina that's in, but he's from the North Carolina area.
Ah, well, let's just wait for Bill Belichick and company to throw him $15 million, and then we get Redneck Matt all over again.
You think Belichick's going to last there? I've heard his name pop up in some NFL jobs.
No, I don't. I said that just to be funny for the most part.
It's in the Greensboro area.
There's a weird clause in his contract
That's why I asked.
to where he has isn't it like a $1 million buyout after June 1st of 2025?
Something like that.
So his buyout's $1 million if he leaves before he even coaches a game. I don't. If you're North Carolina, I don't know why you agree to that. In knowing him, there's probably a clause in the contract that his son gets the head coaching job once he leaves. But I don't know. I'll have to look more into it. But just reading the high notes, that's an odd contract.
Yeah, I mean that's in there. I mean his name. I read it this morning. I think it was for the what job was it? Harb? Was it the Raiders? No,
Yeah,
that was Deion Sanders that came up for the Raiders job.
well, they both have, but the connection for Belichick with the Raiders
Tom
is that
Brady.
Tom Brady's an owner.
Yeah.
I don't know. I mean, his name's going to get floated around a lot. And if he misses the NFL that bad, he'll take a job and it'll be a train wreck for the most part if it's not the perfect situation. And that'll be the end of that.
So keep your eye on those two stories, or well, those two players as we move forward. There'll be a lot more recruiting from the transfer portal. We got Amari Jefferson committed, the wide receiver that is leaving Alabama. He's from the Chattanooga area. He committed to Tennessee for this year's portal class. So nice addition there to kind of fill some of the gaps in the wide receiver room. Haven't heard much talk of any other portal um, comers or goers. So there's another class or another time frame of that in the spring. So I'm sure there'll be more to come on that. Um, Real quick, housekeeping duties here, Harbin. Thank you to Andrew's Physical Therapy. Once again, sponsors of the show. Numbers for their offices are below. You can call the office in Blaine, Tennessee, or Strawberry Plains, Tennessee. Be sure to check those guys out. Drove by the Strawberry Plains office this afternoon, Harbin. They've got the The parking lot mostly scraped off, all the snow's gone. So I would assume Adam and let's see, no, that's Mike's place. Mike will be there first thing in the morning to see those folks, and I'm sure Adam's got his place cleared off up there in Blaine. But you can call those offices if you have any questions or need to get some either prehab or rehab before surgery or after surgery, or if you just need to participate in a wellness program, they've got that. But be sure to call those guys. Numbers again are on the screen if you're listening or if you're watching. If you're listening, go to P4, the letter P, the number 4, physicaltherapy.com, and you can find their info on the website. There's a link up in the top right portion of the screen. I think Harbin got ready, got some rehab after going to Ohio State. He's back on top of his game. Is that right?
I did. I was down bad, and I went and seen Mike, and now I'm back and better than ever. Two of the hardest working men, and they've got some of the hardest working people coming or working underneath them in the Strawberry Plains and Blaine community. Um, so yeah, shout out to those guys.
Yes.
Like Nathan said, if you need any prehab, rehab, or wellness work, go see them fellas. They'll take care of you.
And tell them Section YY8 sent you.
You might even get a sticker.
Yeah, maybe. We'll see. I need to
Maybe.
drop some off over there. I need to do that, actually. That's a good
You
idea.
absolutely do. Yeah, give them to Jessica.
Yeah, I'll give them to Jessica, and then I don't know who's at the other place, but we'll figure it out. But thank you to those guys. Also, remember if you're watching us on the YouTube channel, like, subscribe. If you haven't already, subscribe. And if you're watching this, please hit the like button down below. We need to get that algorithm going. So hit that like button. That helps drive viewers to the channel. Hit that like button. Maybe share it. That would be nice. Share it on your social media or text it to your buddies, whatever you need to do. And if you're listening on the Spotify or Apple, thank you for listening there. And viewership's pretty good right now, Harbin, compared to where we were a year or two ago. We're doing pretty good. So thank you guys for listening. All right. Tennessee basketball, Harb. I'm going to hand it over to you. I'm going to chest pass over to you. I did not get to watch this game Tuesday night. Full disclaimer, I was announcing the Carter versus Anderson County game at historic Jim Williams Gymnasium, and I had it on my laptop because I had my laptop out to play music and do some other stuff. So I had the game cast on my laptop while I was announcing, and I kept looking at it, and it was 6-0 Florida, 8-0 Florida, 12-0 Florida. Then we
What?
got it to then we got it to 12-4. I was like, oh, I looked at Grub. I said, all right, we're good. We've scored 4 in a row. Boy, was I wrong. You look up and it's 18-4 and it's 21-4. And then it just spiraled out of control. I text my uncle after the game and I was like, what the heck happened? And he was like, we couldn't throw it in the ocean. We were getting fouled and they weren't calling it. Florida couldn't miss, blah, blah, blah. And I said, do I even need to watch this when I get home? And he just said, burn the tape. Because I always, he says it and I say it too. We're on tape delay. Um, it was rough, apparently. I did not go back and watch it. I saw some highlights. It looked like we just were so out of sync. I don't know what Florida was doing to make us so out of sync. It was kind of odd. I don't think we really talked about it. I kind of thought it. Florida's a pretty high scoring team. They score 80s and 90s quite a bit. It was like if you'd have told me we held Florida to 73 points, a pretty good chance we win that game. I did not expect Tennessee to score 43, and they had to apparently hump it to do that. And it was just a piss poor night all around for Tennessee. I don't know how they did defensively. I mean, they gave up 73, which sounds like a lot, but Florida scored 106 or scored 100 at Kentucky. On this past Saturday night, I think they scored, was it 82 or 85, something like that. So they're a pretty good offensive team. They're a very good team all around. We told you all this before the game last week on last week's show, but Harbin, you I think told me you saw some of the game. You saw way more of it than I did. What's your thoughts? It was not good.
So to start this few-minute rant off, Jack McGuire that works with Barstool. Some of you may know him. He's pretty good, but he summed up this game in the best way that I know how. And in the moment when I read it, it pissed me off. But now that it's been almost an entire week, it's extremely funny because it's true. He said college basketball is the funniest sport on planet Earth because you turn your TV to ESPN to check out the number one ranked team in the nation, and they're the absolute worst basketball team you've ever seen in your life. Obviously, he was exaggerating, but that's the performance that we had. I mean, it was Murphy's law. What could go wrong will go wrong, especially on the offensive end. Couldn't throw the ball in the ocean. We didn't score for the first 6.5 or 7 minutes of the ball game. It was just rough viewing all around. As a team, Tennessee made 4 field goals in the first half. 4 field goals in the first half. We averaged 1 bucket every 5 minutes, Nice. We went 12 of 56 for the game. We got hot in the second half and made 8. We went 4 for 29 from 3. And the frustrating thing about that game, I'm not going to say about this team because it's one game, but the frustrating thing about that game was we couldn't get anything to go from long range, so we just kept firing it. And I'm all for if you have a couple guys that are shooters, that if they're in a slump, shoot out of it. But I don't want to see the whole damn team do it. I mean, you got to try something new. I mean, the definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over and expecting a different result. It was ridiculous. A couple of team stats as well. We got out hustled too. We came into this game a top 10 rebounding team in the country. Did we not?
Yes. Yeah, we were not number 9 in rebounding margin.
Okay, well, we got out rebounded 56 to 37, which when you miss every shot you take, you're probably going to get out rebounded.
But remember, I said last week Florida was, I believe, tied for second in rebounding margin. Very good rebounding team.
Fair, but still, you get out rebounded
Right.
by 20. We missed 10 free throws. We went 15 of 25 from the foul line. They went 13 of 17. Fast break points was another one. It was 22 to 3. That's pretty telling. Points in the paint, 40 to 14. And the funniest stat of the game was each team's largest lead: Tennessee 0, Florida 36.
Yeah.
Those are my top 5 telling stats. Yeah, you got out hustled, which is a horrible combination of when you can't throw the ball in the Atlantic Ocean if you're standing on the shore of Myrtle Beach. Chaz Lanier was our leading scorer. He had a whopping 10 points on 3 of 16 shooting. Going down the line, Akpar was really the only one that I would give a respectable game to. 2 for 3 from the field, 8.7 rebounds. That's a pretty decent game out of him. After that, Igor goes 2 for 7 from the field, 1 for 5 from 3, 8.7 rebounds. Zakai Ziegler, 4 for 12 from the field, 10, 2, and 2. Meshack, 0 for 3, 0 points, 4 rebounds. Cade Phillips played 3 minutes. He managed to get in the stat column with 1 rebound. Boswell played 11 minutes and got some cardio in. That was my notes that I took after the game. Jordan Gainey, 1 for 11. Great game. Dubar Donuts is what I put in my notes app after the game. I believe he went 0 for 3 from the field and had a Tony Snell game for you NBA heads out there. Um, yeah, I mean, it was a rough night to have a bad night. It, and anytime you lose to Florida in anything, it hurts worse than if you just lose to anybody else. But this game is not the end of the world. And in my opinion, this game has potential to be a very bright upside for our basketball program. In my opinion, it was kind of a come back to earth moment. You know, like you're not just going to roll through everybody. You know, you're going to get beat every once in a while. So lock the hell in and figure out what you need to do to win on the road consistently. And obviously, this team knows what it takes to win on the road. Won by what 22 or 25 at Louisville, who's decent. They're kind of up and down. They've got about 6 or 7 losses, but most of their losses are to really good teams. That Illinois win is just going to keep looking better and better. They were number 5 in the net rankings going into Saturday, and they got a big win at home. So they lose.
Illinois lost
Okay, well either way,
to
I thought
USC on Saturday.
they lose that game.
Yeah, they were down most of the game. I think they ended up losing almost by double digits.
Well, either way,
Yeah,
they
but
were number
still,
5.
we get your point. Yes.
They were number 5 in the net rankings going into Saturday, and Illinois is one of those teams where they're going to have a fine season. Um, but sometimes it takes a good team to get absolutely just punched in the nose to learn how to be a great team. And hopefully that's what happens. And I'm sure we'll segue into this in a little bit, but obviously Tennessee bounced back at Texas, which is a great win. Road wins in the SEC are going to be cherished this season. Auburn saw that against South Carolina, who's widely regarded as the bottom feeder of the SEC. They had to absolutely scratch and claw and get a little bit of luck to win in Columbia on Saturday. So a road loss is not the end of the world. Losing by 30 is enough to raise your eyebrows. But everybody calm down.
Well, I think we told everybody, like, if Tennessee goes on the road and loses at Florida, top 10 team, very good basketball team, probably going to be in the hunt for the SEC title, probably going to be in the hunt for the second weekend of the NCAA tournament. They're going to be the top 16 seed in the big dance. So very good basketball team. No shame in going down there and losing. The only thing I did say, I wish I had more time to go back. I'm pretty sure I said this. The only way I told everybody, don't freak out. You said it too. Only thing I did say was, now if we go down somewhere and get blown out, then that's maybe we need to open our eyes a little bit. Now, blown out to me is like 15, 18, 20 points. 30, that's very eye-opening to me.
That's an ass whooping. Let's just
Yeah,
call it what it is.
yeah.
That's what it is.
We got spanked. And I will say this, I was really interested to see how they rebounded, no pun intended, going to Texas because they had back-to-back road games. They had to go to the Moody Center there in Austin, Texas. Yes, we know ESPN. Rick Barnes used to coach at Texas. They keep talking about that. We know that. He's been there. This is his second visit back since then. Great. But Texas I think they came into the game 0-2 in the conference, but they're not a bad basketball team. I was trying to find them here on KenPom. They're still, after Tennessee beat them Saturday, they're still number 37 in KenPom. So as far as analytics go, I know probably not by the polling, the human polls, they're a top 50 basketball team. So they're probably going to be on the fringe of making the big dance, just depending on what they do. But
I mean,
before
their conference losses were at A&M, Auburn at home, and Tennessee at home. So you
all top
lost,
10 teams.
yeah, you lost at number 10 A&M, and then you lost to number 2 and number 1 at home.
Yeah. So they got plenty of time, I mean, to rebound. It's like we said, yeah, they're 0 and 3 and they've lost 3 games, but did it really in the grand scheme of things hurt them all that badly? Now at some point they're going to need to win some of those games. And Texas probably needs to win the games that they should, but I was interested to see Tennessee going down there. How do they rebound after a loss like that? How do they respond? There was a lot of people on social media calling Tennessee, we played soft, we got beat up, we got pushed around. Rick Barnes, in one of his media availabilities after the Florida game, said, I went back and watched the tape and I was more encouraged. I'm paraphrasing here. I'm more encouraged after the loss because it's things we can fix. It wasn't an effort thing. It wasn't a we didn't try thing. He said we just got beat by a really good basketball team and they exposed some of our weaknesses and we got to fix it. And I was interested to see how they go down to Austin. I don't think it's one of the tougher places to play, but it's on the road. It's the SEC. Texas is a decent basketball team. And they had a fight on their hands. Tennessee was only a 4-point favorite. FPI had them at, I think, like 56, 57% chance to win. So it was almost in that 50-50 toss up range if Tennessee was going to win or not. Texas played Auburn pretty tough. I got to see some of that I think they played on Tuesday night, or maybe it was Wednesday night. I can't remember. But they played Auburn I think the final score was 89-82. So Texas they're not a pushover. And, Tennessee went on the road and lost to a really good Florida team, even though my buddy Josh Walker says it was lackluster. And I'm like, I just don't think you watch or understand who Tennessee was playing on Tuesday night. That is a really, really, really good basketball team. And we played at a place that Tennessee historically is not very good at the O Dome. They're just not. I think that was the third straight loss down there, and then none of the three losses have been close. So, anyways, Tennessee washed that out of their system. I felt like they played much better at Texas. They did not still do some things very well, and I'll get into it after the Texas talk. Um, a lot of turnovers, but this is a program that is not soft. If you think they're soft, you're wrong. This program is not soft. They've got a lot of veteran leadership who knows how to win. One of those being Zakai Ziegler. And they made a bunch of plays the last 5 minutes of the game. It was a toss up there. They were down 4, 5 points at different points with the under 10-minute mark. And they ended up kind of pulling away the last 4 or 5 minutes. They got it up to 8 there at one point, but Texas got it back down to 4. 74-70 was the final, but I thought that was a really good bounce back win. It may not have been the prettiest, but I don't think there's going to be a lot of those in the SEC this year. I'm not talking just Tennessee, but you look, Auburn had to scrap and claw Saturday. I got to watch most of that game. They trailed a lot of that game. That was a fight on their end. Um, Out of conference, Iowa State had to go to overtime to beat Texas Tech, who was unranked, but Texas Tech is a good team. It's hard to win on the road, and Big 12 is a good basketball conference. SEC is right now head and shoulders the best basketball conference, and I just don't think you're going to see. You might see some. I think Alabama ended up pulling away from A&M last night. I didn't catch the final because I flipped it over to the Kentucky Mississippi State game, but that was a close one. But Alabama ended up pulling away. But I don't think you're going to see many games. You're not going to see Tennessee beat a whole lot of teams on the road 79-62 or something like that. Maybe here or there, but a lot of these games are going to be 1 and 2 and 3 possessions, and that's what it was last night. Tennessee just made more, especially the last 5 minutes. They made way more plays than Texas did, and I credit that to your Zakai Zieglers and Rick Barnes, the culture that he's built there. And they gutted out a win, and it was a really nice win. They did some good things, they did some bad things. But now they get to come back home and face a really tough Georgia team who's playing really well on Wednesday night at TBA FCC. But thoughts on the Texas win last night, Harbin?
I thought it was gutty, to put it in one word. It was a big win. Brett and I were talking about this the other day. It wasn't in the must-win category, but it was definitely like it'd be really nice to have this one. Just kind of bounce back, and then you have a home game coming up. Like all is right in the world essentially. Um, I mean, it was gritty. Like Texas came to play. They made so many contested mid-range jumpers. I mean, like it got to a point where it was like, if these keep going in, it just feels like Texas is destined to win. I don't know if you felt that way watching it or not.
Yeah.
I mean, so many tough shots. I give them a lot of credit. I believe it was Trey Johnson.
Mm-hmm. 26 points.
He had a hell of a game. I think he had 18 at halftime, if if I remember correctly.
I think it was right.
And Pope also had 17. They were the catalyst for sure. But I mean, like you said, veteran leadership. Zakai Ziegler led us with 16 and 8. You're not getting 16 and 8 out of many point guards in the country, especially at the level that we play at every week. And Dubar probably played his best game of the season.
Absolutely.
And I'm big on Hello Darling. That's my guy. Once he starts to get his feet under him, which I think he's starting to, I think he's going to be a massive contributor for this team. And we're going to need him. I mean, we play 8 guys most of the time. We're going to need some production out of him. Thought Okpara played really well. Um, Gainey played well off the bench as well for the most part. Hit a couple threes. Uh, my favorite player on this team is Igor Milicic. I don't care what anybody says. He's not the best player we have, but he's my favorite. That dude does everything. I know he's not Swiss, but he's a Swiss Army knife. He's Croatian. Does Croatians have army knives?
I'm sure they have some kind of a knife. I don't know.
I wonder if it has as many tools on it as a Swiss Army knife.
Let For shits and giggles, let's say yes.
We will find a nickname for him in the next couple weeks that's catchy enough to catch on. Uh, but overall, I mean, nothing blew me away in this game on either side of the ball. The 3-point shooting was obviously much better than it was in the Florida game. We went 10 of 23. That's damn near 44%. So, yeah, I don't really have a ton for this game. It's a good win. You did the line was 4.5. You won by 4, so you didn't cover. I mean, hell, you was right there. You did what was pretty much expected of you, and we made some solid plays down the stretch. That's what winning basketball teams do. And especially bouncing back on a back-to-back road stand after getting embarrassed like you did on national television. So, yeah, good win. Get ready for Georgia. I don't really have a whole lot more than that.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, that's kind of what I said. It was a gutsy win, what they needed to do to bounce back. I asked the question, is winning on the road, should it count as like 1.5 wins? Because it's tough. I mean, and I said it last week, like win all your games at home, see what happens on the road. You know, you're not going to win every game on the road, but Tennessee's got a pretty good home court advantage in Thompson Bowling Arena. Go out there and take care of all 9 games you play at home and see where that lands you. So we'll see. There were some notes, and I found this morning, and I want to give credit to the person who posted this on X. And I didn't see this, Harbin, but this popped up when I pulled up X. Apparently, the Eagles tried, I guess, after a score or a interception or something, but Mitchell, number 27 for the Eagles, tried to put one of his teammates in Triple H's pedigree finisher, and they totally botched it. I'll send it. I'll send it to you. That was pretty funny. All right. Anyways, back to business here. This was posted by, and you may know or be aware of this account at Billy underscore stats. He does post a lot of, especially basketball stats. Looks like he pulled this off of probably Ken Palm, but it's more detailed stats and kind of digs into offensive defensive output. I'm not going to go through all these, but the notes and I'll post them. I'll try to post them on the video version of this, but the notes are it compares Tennessee statistics non-conference versus the first three games in conference. So not a huge sample size to look at as far as conference games because they had, let's see, we're 2-1, so that means we were 12-0 going in it. So we had 12 non-conference games and now three conference games. So sample size is not as big. And also keep in mind that in our non-conference schedule we played some not so great teams. So the numbers may be inflated just a tad. But looking at this, it tells me one thing. Tennessee's not shooting the ball as well. Effective field goal percentage in non-conference was 53.8. During conference plays, 42%. The turnover margin or turnover percentage, non-conference play 17.0. During conference, 20.5. Turning the ball over way too much. Offensive rebound percentage, 39.5% non-conference, 43.1% in conference play. That is one thing that's better. Um, let's see. 3-point percentage. This is where you kind of start to see a big difference. 3-point percentage non-conference play, 34.6%. During conference play, 30.8%. 4 points below where they were in non-conference. 2-point percentage, 55.2% non-conference. During conference play, it's 38.8%. Almost 14 points lower from non-conference versus conference play. Free throw percentage is also down from 74% in non-conference to 68. Block shots is up. They're averaging an 18% block rate in conference play as compared to an 8% block percentage in non-conference play. On the defensive side, very quickly, non-conference play effective field goal percentage was 41.5%. During conference play, it's 45%. So they're allowing teams to shoot 4% better. Turnover margin in non-conference is 20.5 on the defensive end. In conference play, 16.4% turnover percentage, not turnover margin. So that's down. They're not turning the ball over as much. Offensive rebound percentage, they're allowing teams a 35% rebounding percentage in conference play as compared to 29% in non-conference play. And really quickly, shooting the ball, 3-point percentage on the defensive end in non-conference was 24.8. Three in conference play is 25.7, so not a big difference there. 2-point percentage in non-conference was 45.3%. In conference play, it's 49.5%, so a little bit of difference there. And that's really the only notes. And I also looked this up because I think last week I mentioned that we were shooting more three pointers. It felt like we're shooting more three pointers than we ever have, or than we did last year. That's actually not really the case. This year we are shooting 25.4 threes per game. For the entirety of last year, that's number 41 in the country. For the entirety of last year, it was 25.1 per game. So we're shooting about the same amount per game. 3-point percentage this season is 34.6%. That ranks 118th in college basketball. Keep in mind there are 300 and how many teams? 364. And then last year, we shot 34.4%. So no change there. So I say all that to say offensive numbers are kind of in line with where they were last year, but jumping from non-conference play to conference play this season, the offensive numbers have taken a dip, which I think you can expect because you're playing tougher competition, and the defensive numbers have taken a hit. I think the big thing that I noticed out of all that was the three on the offensive side, the 3-point percentage has really dipped off in 3 games, and the 2-point shooting percentage has really dipped off. You can look at it and say they've really not allowed that big of a jump on the defensive side on other teams shooting the ball, but the defense has not been as good, and the offense has definitely not been as good. There was another stat on there where, and this is my last stat, Harbin. They per possession, I think, and I'll look it up here. Sorry, I'm butchering it again. Um, Basically, we're taking a lot of time, a lot more time per possession than we did in non-conference play. Um, Average length of possession in non-conference play was 17.86 seconds. During conference plays, 19.2. Um, it's a grind, Harbin. I guess that's what all that means is it's a lot harder when you get into conference play. I think you could say that for any conference, but especially this year in the SEC. Tennessee's got to shoot the ball better. Chaz Lanier, 2 out of the last 3 games in the conference, hasn't really shot the ball very well. He did not shoot the ball well against Texas. He definitely didn't against Florida. He did against Arkansas. So hopefully coming back to TBA on Wednesday night will help him out. But I wanted to throw those stats out there because I've been thinking a lot about it and looked them up and then saw where Billy Stats posted that. And it wasn't as bad as I thought, but it also, some of those numbers kind of stood out to me a little bit. And you could kind of, I felt over the last 2 or 3 weeks, we've not been playing the level. And maybe I'm wrong. Maybe Rick Barnes likes the level of defense they're playing. I don't think the defense has been there as good as it was earlier in the season. And definitely the offense isn't there either. But all things that they can fix. Nothing to panic about. We're still 2-1 in conference play. Got a tough game on Wednesday against the Georgia Bulldogs. They've beaten Kentucky and they beat somebody, yes, Oklahoma, who's now 0-3 in conference play. They beat them at Stegman on Saturday. So we'll see. A lot of basketball to be played.
A ton. We said this earlier. 13-5 could win this conference.
Yeah.
So I mean, let's not freak out when we lose. You do have permission to voice your opinion when we lose by 30, but let's
I'm gonna
not.
be honest, when I saw that score, Harbin, and I got home, I was kind of concerned. If we would have lost that game by 5 or 7 or something or 10, I'd have been like, oh well. But it's like 30, like we're better than that. Really?
I
But
mean, they were coming off a loss. We hadn't lost yet. It was at home, which that place is tough to play in. We typically have a little bit of trouble there. I'm not saying the writing was on the wall, but I guess I kind of am a little bit.
yeah, you are.
Yeah, I mean, nobody in the world saw a 30-point beatdown coming. I mean, 3 days prior to that game, Florida gave up 106 points and we scored 43. Let's just call it like it is. It was an ambush. It is what it is, but we moved on and we bounced back. And the good thing about that game is they're one of the few SEC teams that we actually have an opportunity to play twice this season. So you can avenge that loss and everything will be right in the world and everybody will shut the hell up about this game.
Exactly.
just is what it is. Just take care of what's in front of you. We're 15-1 or 16-1, whatever we are.
15-1.
Yeah, dear Lord, guys.
Oh Lord, we're 15-1. We should be 16-0, some people would
Oh
say.
no, the sky is falling.
So what do the Vols have ahead of them this week? You may be asking yourself. Many are asking. We've got, I think I mentioned this, the Georgia Bulldogs at Thompson Bowling on Wednesday night, and then on Saturday, speaking of a house of horrors, we go to Memorial Coliseum or sorry, Memorial Gymnasium in Nashville, Tennessee. 3:30 tip off versus the Vanderbilt Commodores. So looking back at the Georgia game, I haven't seen a line for either of these games, but matchup predictor has Tennessee as 85% favorites to win against Georgia on Wednesday and 74.7% against Vanderbilt on Saturday afternoon. So it's going to be two tough games. Vanderbilt's playing really well. They are 13-3, but they're 1-2 in conference play. But Georgia's playing really well right now. They are, I believe, 2-1 in conference play. Let's see who the Bulldogs have played in conference so far. If you'll bear with me just a second. They have lost to Ole Miss and defeated Kentucky and Oklahoma. So not bad. And Vanderbilt's 1-2 in SEC play, and they have beaten LSU, lost to very good Mississippi State team, and lost to Missouri. Maybe they came back down to earth a little bit, but anyways, not going to be cakewalks this week. Harbin, two more tough games. I think we're going to be saying that the rest of the year.
For sure. And I'm not going to waste y'all's ears on saying that again. What I will tell y'all is there's a potential whomping coming in Knoxville this weekend or this week. I think that Georgia game has potential of. Thank God we're finally back on home turf. If any of the guys actually go to class, like they're back in the class routine, they're getting back to normal, working off the holiday food and whatnot. Things are nature is healing for lack of a better term. So there's a potential that there's an ass whooping in Knoxville on is it Tuesday night or Wednesday night?
Wednesday night.
Yeah, it could happen. Georgia's good. Don't get me wrong. They're a solid basketball team. But we have the potential to beat anybody in the country by 20. Let's not shy away from that fact. Is it likely with some of these teams? No. But any given night, we can dust anyone. And if I'm wrong, I will eat these words. You can play the clip back on the next episode. That's fine. I'm a big boy. I can handle it. I'm kind of expecting an ass whooping on Wednesday.
I hope so. That'd be nice. I mean, the matchup predictor, while it's not an automatic that Tennessee wins, it's pretty high that Tennessee wins that game on Wednesday night. Pretty good percentage. I would think 85% chance to win is Tennessee's going to be favored by several points on Wednesday night against Georgia. It sounds to me. I would say probably what, 8 to 10 or 12, something like that.
I think it'll be at least 10. It might be
Mhm.
12. Well, we were favored against Arkansas by, what, 12 and a
12,
half?
12 and a half, yes.
And they were ranked at the time. Is Georgia ranked? I don't think they are.
They're not as of this recording, but I have a feeling they will be ranked on Monday.
Okay, so we'll just call it safe and say fringe top 25 team. They're somewhere ranked in the 20s. We'll just put it that way. Tennessee will be favored by around 12 and a half.
Georgia's number 35 in Ken Palm. And in the
The line,
net
the line
net
will be between 10 and 15 for sure.
and in the net rankings, the Georgia Bulldogs are number 26. So pretty good team. They're good. Mike White's done a good job. I knew they would get better under him down there when they hired him because he always had good teams at Florida. And Georgia's I don't want to say it's an easy place to recruit to, but it's a pretty fertile recruiting ground when you think about the state of Georgia and how many people are 30 to 40 minutes down the road from them in Atlanta. So um, I hope you're right. I hope it is a stomping on Wednesday night. We'll see. But Tennessee basketball 2-1, still right in the middle of it all, Harbin. I said last week, I said, I don't know if Tennessee, or maybe it was a couple weeks ago, I don't know if Tennessee's the number one team in the country. I don't think they are. I think probably right now you got to give that resume wise, you got to give that nod to Auburn. But I think Tennessee will drop 3 or 4 spots probably. I think Duke will probably move ahead of them. Maybe Houston. I don't know, but I don't think they'll
Iowa
drop
State.
very much. Iowa State. Iowa State right now is 14-1. So, they're 2, 3, 4 spots. It's probably what I would expect. But I think Tennessee's definitely a top 10, fringe top five, a top 10 basketball team. The depth stuff bothers me a little bit, Harbin. I can't get that out of my mind. Now I will. They're one injury away from being in trouble. I'm afraid. Cade Phillips he's got a bum shoulder right now. It's his non-shooting shoulder, I think. So he's playing through it. Um, if a Dubar goes down, or God forbid, like a Lanier or a Ziegler goes down, this team is going to be, it's not going to be good. So they're kind of holding it together right now. And hopefully, injury bug does not confront this team any more than it already has. But um, I think they're definitely in the mix still for the SEC, and we'll see. It's tough. It's going to be tough. I mean, it's just crazy how ultra competitive this conference is, but it's going to be fun and agonizing at the same time as we go through the season.
Yeah, I mean, competition's fun. That's what we do this whole thing for. You know,
Exactly.
I don't know if I said this on last week's show, but SEC plays kind of feeling like when UConn won their first national championship, uh, and when they got to the Final Four or national title game, whichever one, reporter asked Coach Early, he's like, man, y'all really figured it out once y'all got to the tournament. Like, what'd y'all do? He's like, man, we didn't figure anything out. We just finally got out of conference play. He's like, it's no disrespect to who we're playing. It just is what it is. And I think the SEC is good enough to say that as of January 12th. So we'll see. I'm obviously not saying Tennessee's going to win a national championship, but I do think the SEC is definitely favored to produce the national champion. It could be a slew of teams. But we'll see. There's a lot of basketball left to play. I'm not getting into that.
A
I'm not
lot of
getting into
bat, a lot of, lot, a lot. I'm not even looking up the odds. I think at one point Tennessee was like top five in odds to win the national title, but that's going to move up and down as we go along. But we'll watch this week, Wednesday night and Saturday afternoon. Tennessee versus Georgia Wednesday night, Tennessee versus Vandy on Saturday afternoon. Hopefully YY8 refugee, he's out in the Nashville area. Hopefully he goes to the game and supports them boys. If he does, I'll have him. He'll be our reporter on the scene, live and on the scene in Memorial. I doubt he goes, but we'll see. Um, Before we go, Harbin, thoughts? College football playoffs. We're down to the final two. Ohio State versus Notre Dame. We didn't really talk playoffs last week, but thoughts on the playoffs as we wrap up the college football season.
I've made a lot of money on Notre Dame and Ohio State, so that's been fun. Uh, there's a couple things. I've talked about the format. I don't like the format, which I said that last week, so I'm not going to get into it. But The biggest thing for me, and this has nothing to do with the actual, well, I guess it does, kind of, but right before the playoff started, like 3 or 4 days before the first game, and I tried to go back and find the tweet, but I can't find it. There was someone on Twitter or X that created a simulation model for the
Yes, I saw this. It was great.
and they posted the simulations prediction for the bracket on on December 12th or 13th. And if you look at the replies before it all started, everybody was dying laughing at it. Lo and behold, it has currently gotten every single game correct. It had Texas beating Clemson, Ohio State beating Tennessee, uh, Penn State beating SMU, uh, Notre Dame beating Indiana, and then it had Notre Dame beating Penn State. Or,
Jordan.
I'm sorry, yeah, Notre Dame beating Georgia, Penn State beating Boise State,
Arizona. Oh,
Boise
Boise.
State,
Sorry.
Texas beating Arizona State, Ohio State beating Oregon. Obviously, y'all know the games. Y'all have watched. And it got it all the way down to where Notre Dame plays Ohio State in the national championship, and the module has Notre Dame winning over Ohio State, which the creator of it has since come out in the last couple of days and said, "Look, this is what it was a month ago. Obviously, the projections now are very heavy in Ohio State. I think the person that created it might be covering their tracks a little bit, but either way, extremely impressive uh, for however they came up with whatever data that they use. I thought that was really cool. That's legit. I mean, if I can find it eventually, I'll text it to Niece and we'll put the link to it in the comments or something on the YouTube. But yeah, overall, it's been at least these two games this past weekend were awesome. That Penn State Notre Dame game was, in my opinion, as close to peak college football as you can get. We thought we were going to get a snooze fest, and we got an absolute barn burner. Uh, Riley Leonard's an absolute dog. I was not familiar with your game, young man. You're a dog. Also, his high school basketball highlights are legit. If you haven't seen those, and another thing that's cool about him is his mother texts him before every game and says you suck.
Really? I didn't know that.
Yeah, so they did an interview on him, and he said back in high school he had a bunch of yes men around him, and it bothered him. He's like, I had everybody around me telling me I was the man, and I needed somebody to tell me I wasn't. So my mom just started texting me before high school games and said, "You suck," and it's carried into college, which is cool. Cool little mother daughter or mother son relationship. But then you got Ohio State that's looking insanely good on the other side. Texas had opportunities to win that game, but then Steve Sarkisian, all over the field. I don't know why anybody's surprised. He's done this. I mean, he was the offensive coordinator in the worst blown Super Bowl game of all time, and it was majorly his fault. And when he was OC for the Falcons versus the Patriots, they could easily win that game 4 times. Nope. I don't know. I'm not a Sarkisian guy. I've never been a Sarkisian guy.
I think he's a good coach. I think sometimes he's like a lot of these coaches, and whether it be college or high school level, I think they just sometimes they just outthink themselves. Just yeah, no, it's tough to run up the middle at the goal line against Ohio State. And they tried that on play number one on first and goal, and then they tried to run a toss sweep from the shotgun on second down. And Ohio State was just all over it, and it was just downhill. It was the odd percentages of them scoring from there. Third and goal from what the 8 or 10 yard line just decreased dramatically. I'm glad they didn't because I picked Ohio State, and it's really helped me in the bowl pick 'em. I'm in second place right now, and we'll see what happens next Monday. We'll talk more about national championship game next week, point spread and all that. But um, you're right. Sark has a way of kind of getting in his own way a little bit.
He does, which is kind of funny. I saw some Tennessee fans on Twitter during that game. It was like, Sarkeesian is so much more creative than Heupel. It's not even funny. And I was like, oh my God, give me a break.
We talked about this last week and I posted it. Who's won more football games in the same time period? Josh Heupel or Steve Sarkeesian? It's Josh Heupel. Now it's very close, but it's Josh Heupel. Percentages and games won. I mean, both of them he is ahead of Sark, but Josh Heupel doesn't coach at Texas. So
Well, and also, I mean, we forget how important good quarterback play is in college football. I mean, before Quinn Ewers went to Texas, they were in arguably their worst stretch in program history. And all of a sudden, he comes in and you get a conference title out of him in the Big 12. You get SEC runner up in your first year in the SEC, and you're arguably a couple plays away from playing for a national championship. And they're going to end up running him out of town. But they love them some Sarkeesian. That's all I'm going to say.
yeah, you're right. Well, we'll talk more about the college football national championship game. It's a week from Monday in Atlanta at the Mercedes-Benz Stadium. Used to be the Mercedes-Benz Dome in Louisiana. Now it's the Caesars Superdome. So just one Mercedes-Benz Stadium now. So that's next week. But we'll be back next week to talk about that. We'll be back next week to talk about Tennessee and Georgia and Tennessee and Vandy. Hopefully the Vols are 4-1 in the conference, 17-1 overall when we get back here next week. But I don't believe I have any games at Carter High School this week, Harbin, but the Carter boys team is off to a good start, 13-5, and one win, honestly, doesn't really even count. Or sorry, one loss doesn't really even count because it was against a team that doesn't even compete. That's not even sanctioned by TSSAA, but the Hornets got some big games coming up this week, not at home. But those boys are playing some good basketball right now, exciting basketball.
Good.
We beat Gibbs Thursday night.
Good. Love it.
Shut them boys up. Their student section was a little mouthy. They were sitting right over my right shoulder. Gibbs student section was very mouthy. They were not talking much by the end of the game when they were down 20 plus points. Hate to see that, right?
Shut them up and show out is what it is.
Sports Day, Gibbs had the chant, see you in softball, or no, it was let's play softball, let's play football, all that bull crap. So good for them.
Let's play softball.
Yeah, because they beat Carter in the state championship game in softball, I guess. Yeah. All right, Harbin, I ain't got anything else. Are you good?
I'm very good.
I'm gonna go edit this and watch the rest of the Bucks and Redskins game, Sunday Night Football playoff edition. Listen to Tarico and Collinsworth, and then there's Monday night game to wrap up the first round of the NFL playoffs. We'll keep you in tune with that. Again, thank you to Andrew's Physical Therapy for partnering up with us. Remember to like, subscribe, share, comment, whether you're listening, whether you're watching on YouTube. Remember to like, subscribe, share, comment, leave us a note, give us a FU or a hey, how's it going? Love the show. We don't care what. So, Harbin, if you ain't got anything else, I'm done.
I believe I'm done.
Oh,
See,
I'm sorry, one last thing. The Titans, we talked about them, complete dumpster fire. Mike Vrabel was hired, or potentially reports are he's going to the Patriots. But after we recorded last week, former VFL Gerard Mayo, who I think I had some classes with at UT, to be honest, He was fired after one season with the Patriots. Not real sure why they didn't hire Variable last year. Kind of sucked for Mayo, but anyways, former Titans head coach Mike Vrabel now with the New England Patriots.
Yeah, Gerard Mayo got put in a shitty spot. Um, he was given a really bad, gutted roster with a rookie quarterback. Well, eventually a rookie quarterback. Before that, you had the mighty Jacoby Brissett. Um, and his job was pretty much to lose games. And he did. And he got fired for it. It didn't make a whole lot of sense. Um, which I didn't think Robert Kraft would fire Gerard Mayo after 1 year because Robert Kraft, in my opinion, is one of those guys that doesn't like to admit that he made a mistake. I don't know. I mean, Mayo probably should have never got the job. But also, if you look at reports, Kraft and Belichick have been grooming him for 4 or 5 years to take it once Belichick left. So
Yeah.
it really don't make a whole lot of sense. Um, I hope he gets another opportunity soon. He'll definitely get a job somewhere. It won't be a head coaching job, but I mean, you play linebacker for the Patriots, and you're a defensive assistant for years, and have a little bit of head coaching experience under your belt. You're going to get a job fairly quickly and easily in the NFL. So
It's kind of crazy. Vrabel's hiring with the Patriots. He's the seventh former player to win a Super Bowl to go back and coach his team, and one of the other seven was Gerard Mayo
yeah,
with the Patriots. So interesting there. We'll keep an eye on that. Well, I've got for those watching, well, for those listening, I've got my Tennessee hard hat on, homemade. I found it in the closet and clean out the other day. I gotta get some better power tees on there, Harbin. Gotta update it a little bit.
look a little dark.
Yeah, they're a little dark and they've got the gray. They're not, I mean, they're fine, but they're old, the old squatty power tee, and it's got a gray outline on it. So I'll get that fixed. But Tennessee's gonna have their hard hat, better have their hard hats on this week. Going to Vandy on Saturday and hosting the Dogs on Wednesday. So Harbin, appreciate it. Always enjoy it. Another episode here. Go get you some rest. We got a long week ahead of us. Back to the grind. And we'll see you guys next week. I'm Negative Niece. That's Harbin. Thank you guys for listening. Appreciate it. We'll see you guys next week on the Section YY8 podcast.